Someone says, "Oh, we're on Craigslist. Oh, we see the thing. Go, let's attack." Then that might be, and that kind of stuff's been around for a while. I think those would be probably just as effective. Covert channels. These are exotic and they're largely unused by our community for the most part, with the possible exception of bypassing the T-Mobile, pay for your wireless bullshit that we have to endure. How many people here actually pay for wireless access? Excellent. Excellent. That is excellent. Not a single hand went up. That is wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. I don't feel bad. Because I never do. I just screw that, I'm just checking email. I'm not, launching missiles or whatever. All right. Damn. I'm serious. I hear this noise and this fume, and I got these lights. I cannot see. Well, it's like, okay, just. It's someone for T-Mobile, is what he said. There you go. Yes, if I was launching missiles, I would pay for the Wi-Fi because then I could say that T-Mobile was a co-conspirator. And that serves them. Okay. Believe it or not, terrorists, those guys that we make fun of, ooh, terrorists, ooh, scary. But no, believe it or not, terrorists actually use covert channels. And that's one of the big things, how they're doing stuff on the internet, how they're communicating with each other. Pardon? IRC. Probably not IRC. Maybe Silk. No, actually, I really don't want to get into specifics. I do know actually some of them. I actually came up with more than one of them in a talk and found out that they're actually using some of those techniques. I don't know whether they came up with it before I did or I came up with it, but I'm not going to. But they are using it, and it's it does happen. So there you have it. Server-to-server covert channels. These are complete ass pain to do. If you're trying to move data from one computer to another via covert channel, you have to set up stuff on both ends. You got to coordinate stuff because a lot of times it's like I'm reading. The data is encoded in, like, say, the IP ID field or just some real exotic field there and whatnot. Non-real-time methods do seem to work best. A nice one, I think, would be the message digest field in email, because I see no other purpose for that except to shove in encrypted data. Really, I mean, I've read the RFC on the damn thing, and it's just like, there's a standard for formatting the thing, but there's no clue as to why you do it. I know it's used to track threads and stuff like that, but I mean, Jesus, come on. Anyway, now let's get to the fun stuff here. We got about 10 minutes left. What would Dan Kaminsky do? If someone has alcohol and wants to bring it up, I'll take a drink. All right, now Riverside. People here probably know Riverside. He's the Wall of Sheep guy at DEF CON. And we discussed this problem. Can I encrypt files without knowing my password and make them self-destruct after a certain time frame? All right. The idea is that I have them on my laptop. My laptop gets confiscated after a certain amount of time. Even though the laptop is off, you can no longer decrypt the files. And I don't know the password for it. That was the mental problem. Okay. I did come up with something between him and I and one other person who came up with a real scary element, actually the Dan element. It wasn't Dan. That we came up with a thing that we got. So roughly it's called plausible deniability protocol. All right? And here's what it is. Initial setup, okay? And I'm not going to go through it and do all the boring, like, this circle with the X in it and then have to explain all the symbols. I'm just putting it up there, just writing it out for you. So Alice chooses a file to encrypt. She supplies a passphrase. That's turned into a hash. A random value is generated. The file is encrypted with the random value. The hash for the passphrase and the random value are XOR together, make a new hash. I take that hash, convert it to a base 64 value, and I store it on the network via DNS caching via one of all kinds of servers that are going to allow me to be able to do that kind of thing. And I set the TTL on it, so it's going to live for maybe 24 to 48 hours. That is what Dan Kaminsky would do in this case. This is what he said, oh, well, I got to shove it in DNS, of course. There's nothing else to do. Why are you even encrypting it on your drive? Just store the whole file in DNS out there. The hash for the passphrase would be stored locally via secure remote password. Forget that it says remote in there. The SRP protocol, what's interesting about it is it's a zero knowledge proof. So what happens is you just get, there's bits of cryptographic stuff on there that you store on the drive, but there's not enough material there for you to brute force and get the passphrase. And search for it, a guy named Tom Wu, I believe, wrote SRP, and I've actually used it before. It's actually a really neat little protocol. And then just, info on retrieving this cache is you store that locally as well, and so that way, and obviously you're going to have some type of daemon running. It's going to keep the thing alive, which we're going to talk about. Decryption, Alice enters her passphrase, converted to H1. SRP, we check to make sure it's the right passphrase, and then it goes off and says, okay, well, this H1 is associated with, or this SRP entry is associated with the location where we're going to get the hash back. And then we get the hash back, the base 64 value that's stored on the network by doing a DNS lookup. And we XOR them back together. We get R1, and then R1 is used to decrypt the file. That's roughly the protocol right there for doing it. Now, you're going to have a daemon up and running because you want to have this base 64 to H2 value to be periodically queried in some form or fashion that's going to keep that thing alive and out there. Okay? Remember, you got kind of a low time to live on it. It's only going to live maybe 24, 48 hours, however you set it up, something like that. You can set it up for lower than that. You can set it up for a week if you wanted. But we were thinking that 1 to 2 days would be fine. On reboot, the daemon would have to start, and it would have to locate what it needs to query out on the network to keep it alive, and which means that your computer that you're storing this data on would have to be up and on the internet at least, like say, once in a 24-hour period. And since it's DNS, you could go to Starbucks, and it'll slip right past T-Mobile's goofy wall of I don't want you to do anything but drink coffee and pay me lots of money that they put up. So that's roughly it. Now here's some advantages to it. If your computer is taken from you by an adversary, you can tell the truth. They could give you sodium pentothal. You do not know the passphrase that is going to decrypt the file. You do know the passphrase that's going to go get the value off the network, but you do not know the actual passphrase that will decrypt the file. Now, unless the computer is kept attached to a network, the H2 value will expire. So all of a sudden it drops off a cache, and there you go. Now, most decent computer forensic labs, I would hope all decent computer forensic labs, do not attach computers to the internet while they're doing an examination. Okay? That would be bad. Sometimes they're examining computers that actually were compromised, and the holes are still there. I know we're running out of time, and I'm hurrying. If the cache alone is compromised, it is still encrypted with your passphrase, which at that point can only be brute forced. And like I said, you can do the keep alive from Starbucks. Disadvantages, if it's present, an adversary could just keep your computer on the network long enough to get the base 64 value, and then once they have that, they could use non-torture techniques such as waterboarding and get the rest of it. That's a non-torture technique, right? Oh, whoa. They'll hold you down and throw shmoo-balls at you. Obviously, if the cache goes away, your computer's offline for some time, hard drive crash, something like that, bada bing, bada boom, data is gone. So obviously, this is only good for short-term data that you could life without. Actually, that you could live without. I love finding typos right in the middle of presentations. That's just wonderful. But anyway, so if it's something like your secret list of owned computers, then fine. You just go out there and pwn some more. All right, real quickly, If anyone here is